Alright, so we're on 1.1. This is the vocabulary. You can get it from the document that's attached for vocabulary. I'm going to go over examples 1, 2, and 3 for this section. Example 1 covers the vocabulary, which you should already have in your notebooks. So for number 1, or letter A, it says name the plane. There are two ways to name a plane. You can either use a capital cursive letter, which is usually going to be on one of the corners of the plane. So in this case, it's that U. It has to be cursive, and it has to be capital. Another way is you can use 3 non-collinear points. So I could use SVB. So this is another way, SVB. You cannot use SVT because they're collinear. You want them to be non-collinear. So you could also use, for example, SBX. Okay, so there's several different ways to name a plane, as long as you use 3 points that are non-collinear, and you can also use the cursive letter. For B, it says name line C another way. Line C is right here. So one way to name a line is by a lowercase cursive letter, or by using 2 points on the line. So I could name this line VB, and you have to have this symbol on top. If you forget the arrows, then it's wrong because it's not a line. It has to have the arrows on top. If you put B first and then V, it's the same thing, so you could also name it as BV. Letter C, it says name a point collinear with M. Collinear means on the same line. So here's point M. The only point that's on this line is going to be point Q. Remember, N is not a point, that's the name of a line. For D, it says name a point non-coplanar with V. So non-coplanar means outside of the plane. The only point that is outside of this plane is point Q. So again, this one's Q. E says name a pair of opposite rays. Remember, for opposite rays, they need to have a common endpoint, and they need to point in opposite directions. So the only one I can use for this one is going to be VS. That's one ray. The symbol is always going to be an arrow that points to the right, always to the right. And VT. So you have to start with the point that they have in common. They both have the point V, that's where they start. So you have to start with that one, and then you follow with the other point, so T. So those are opposite rays. They have a common endpoint. One extends to the right, and then the other one extends to the left. And then the last one, for example 1, we have name the intersection of line N and the plane. So here's line N. The plane is this shape right here. The intersection is point M. That's where the line cuts through the plane. So the only point where it intersects, it's M. Whenever you're writing points, it has to be a capital letter or it's wrong. So for this section in geometry, you have to be really careful about how you use your letters. Capital, lowercase, cursive, not cursive. It's very important. Alright, here's example 2 that we went over in class. It says draw the following. So it says line QR intersects plane F at point S. Okay. So first thing I'm gonna draw is the biggest thing, which is gonna be the plane. We're gonna draw it to look just like this one. So I'm gonna draw plane F. Okay, that's the plane. I have to give a name to everything that I draw. So they tell me the name is F. So I'm gonna put F from one corner. Now I need line QR to intersect this plane at point S. Okay, when it says intersects, it means that the line is going to cut through the plane. It's going to go in through the top and come out through the bottom. So doesn't matter how you draw it. I'm going to draw the line right here. It intersects to the plane, so I'm just gonna draw like a dotted line to show that it's cutting through the plane, and it's gonna come back outside over here. Okay, this is line QR, so I need 2 points on that line. One's Q, the other one's R. Doesn't matter in what order you put them. So I'm gonna say this is Q, and then this is R. It's intersecting a point S, so that's the point where it cuts through the plane. That's the one in the middle. This is gonna be point S. Okay. If it says intersects, it's gonna cut through the plane like this. If it says that it lays on the plane, then you would just draw it on top. You don't have to make it dotted. Right, and the last example is over parallel, perpendicular, and skew lines. Again, this you can find it in the vocabulary section in the notes. Let's go over the example though. For example 3, we're working with segment BC for all 3 of those. So I'm gonna mark that one. I'm just gonna make this in black. I'm gonna mark it just so I know this is the segment that I'm working with. Okay. They're asking me to find a line or a segment that's parallel to BC. So parallel means it has to be on the same plane, so on the same face of that box, and it can never intersect. So if I'm looking at the front side of the box, AD is going to be parallel. And a way you can tell it's parallel, those arrows right here, that means they're parallel. So I'm going to say segment AD. And if I'm looking at the bottom of the box, EG would be parallel because it does not intersect BC. So I'm going to say FG. It's a segment, so you do not put arrows on top of those lines or on the side of those lines. Right, part B is asking me for perpendicular segments. So perpendicular has to be on the same plane, but it has to intersect at 90-degree angles. The way these ones are easy. The way to identify those is by looking at the little square. That means it's a 90-degree angle. So segment AB intersects at a 90-degree angle with BC. So AB is one answer. And there's one more. It's going to be on this side. DC also intersects at a 90-degree angle. So DC. And the last one is going to be skew. So skew means that it's non-coplanar and it never intersects. So I'm going to do this one in green. So for this one's non-coplanar is going to be everything that's left over pretty much. So I'm going to have AE. It's going to be 1. Working with BC, this one, DH is also skew. It's not on the same plane. It's not intersecting that black line that I marked. EH. It's in a separate plane. They never intersect. And then we also have EF back here. EF and HG. They're on different planes. They never intersect the BC. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's it. I cannot use this one because it intersects BC at point C. I cannot use this one because it intersects BC at point B. And I cannot use FG because it's parallel to BC and it's on the same plane. So you cannot use those. Remember, non-coplanar, never intersect. So you only have those 5 answers for that one.